Uh,
Facebook.
Weeds, can you grab a goat or something, like just walking around on the
yeah,
farm?
I don't think he needs to. I think that's going to randomly show up at some point.
Yeah.
I think we can probably expect anything at this point.
All right. It's starting, I think. So we'll start here in just a second. Okay. All right. We are live on Facebook with another Mondays with Mick and a timeout with Higher Power Sports, and excited to be with you again tonight. I'm coming again from the Borman Farm shop where got some equipment in the background. I was telling Coach earlier this, but I was semi shopping today with my son-in-law, so we had we were a little late getting back from that, so I apologize. But happy to have, as always, we have Mick Garry with us. Mick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I was just going to say this semi shopping is, I mean, that means I'm going out and my heart's not really in it. I'm just halfway with the shopping part of it.
Uh, there you go, Mick. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's good. And obviously, tonight our guest is a good friend of mine, a friend that we've been friends for a long time and done some work together and things like that. And if you don't know him, he's a really special person, and we're happy to have him. Maybe he's tough shoes to fill because last week we had Coach Stig on,
Oh man,
and
holy
he did
cow!
awesome. But Coach Matt Wilber from
Uh,
the head basketball coach at Northern State University. How does that?
hey,
I mean, you've been there
hey,
for a little bit, but how does that sound?
yeah,
Northern State University head
yeah,
basketball coach.
yeah. Um, I was still just yesterday. I was in the Barnett Center and walking upstairs and moving around a little bit and just looking down at the floor, and it was still like you see that big wolf out there, and you're like, holy cow, this is pretty cool, man. And it's been, the life is always a whirlwind for us, right? It's always a whirlwind, but this has been a pretty good one. This has been a pretty good one, and it's just it's been awesome to get up here and get in front of people. The process of getting the job, um, the questions of can I get the job, then do I want the job? I mean, like it's one thing, like when you make moves like this, if you're in the coaching world, there's things that are obvious trajectories and obvious directions you go. And if I'm at Dakota Wesleyan, you're running to a Northern State job, but especially with the background I've had. But I was down in Phoenix, right? And I had a great job in basketball, man. Like I had a good job. And I joke tongue in cheek, like for the amount of work I did for that job, like it way different. There were plenty of days in season. I hate saying this. I was sitting by the pool at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We had six full time assistants. We had a head coach. In the pro game, there is zero fundraising, zero recruiting. I had as a little responsibility in basketball as I've ever had. In fact, I was just joking with Tibbs just yesterday about a time when I asked him. I came out into a timeout. We were playing in Minnesota, and I suggested a offensive action, and he was like, "We got it." I'm like, "All right, coach. All right, boss. You got 2 timeouts left, and if you need a stick of gum, let me know. I'll be right back here." So the yeah, so but getting into Northern State and jumping into this and getting my feet into Aberdeen and then into the campus and anybody anybody that knows anything about Northern understands how passionate we are up here about athletics and especially men's basketball. And that gets my juices going, and I couldn't be more excited. It's been pretty easy to put the wolf on, man. I'll tell you, and for a lot of reasons. But I'm excited to get going and feel pretty blessed and fortunate for my entire journey to get to this point, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, and some people, obviously know Northern State, know Matt Wilber, but a lot of people don't know that connection that you had even as a young kid, growing
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Maybe talk about that a little bit,
yeah.
how special that was to come full circle almost.
Yeah. Well, like I graduated from Del Rapids High School, and I've joked here, and about I would have loved to play for the Wolves, but you got to be good enough, man. You got to be good enough. And I joked when I was interviewing for the DWU job too. I wanted to transfer to DW, and they wouldn't take me, and I was like, "Don't pass me up a second time." And it was kind of that way here too, but. I was born and raised in Miller, South Dakota, which is 80 miles from here. And my mom and dad both graduated from Northern State. My dad, right out of high school, went to South Dakota State to play basketball. His dad had went to SDSU, so he was going there. Coach Wachs recruited the heck out of my dad up here. And after 1 year at South Dakota State, he transferred up to Northern. So he met my mom up here, and then everything for the Wilber family is kind of history from that. But as a young kid, my dad, we were always hopping in the truck to go to a college basketball game. My uncle Bob was coaching at Mount Marty when I was a kid, so that was an obvious direction we would go. But Northern and Aberdeen and the Barnett Center was always first and foremost. So I grew up a Wolves fan right away. Like I was cheering for the Wolves, and I was, in Miller in those days. You had some really good matchups and good high school basketball players. And Eric Klein was cooking, for Central when I was a young kid. And Miller actually played Aberdeen Central twice, once in Miller and once in Aberdeen. And then obviously Eric went to Augie for a year, but transferred back to Northern. And I grew up watching those teams and the enjoyment and the excitement of watching Coach Olson. And I remember Tim Miles being an assistant coach at those times. And I just had so many great memories that I was a fan first. And so for that to come full circle and have a personal connection back here and just how that goes, because my dad, like he was passionate about me playing for Augustana College, wore those colors proudly, also at Dakota Wesleyan. But when there were off nights and Northern was playing in Sioux Falls, my dad was wearing maroon at those games and going to those games. So as it turns out, this is wild. My mom just told me this. I think she threw out a Letterman's jacket from Northern a couple of years ago, a 1970s baseball, basketball Letterman's jacket of my dad, like an original, authentic one. And she's like, "Who is going to ever wear this?" And I'm like, that is so unbelievable. I'm like, I'd be rocking that thing all over the place up here. So, obviously, I've talked about that before. There's a personal connection to being up here, and my grandma Dobler lived here, until she passed away. So I have an aunt and uncle up here. So I grew up in Aberdeen. This was kind of second home, running out to Storybook Land and all the different, that life. And so it's a personal connection, and it's pretty surreal for a guy like me, for how much love I have for South Dakota sports, and how connected I've been to it to be able to coach at Northern State. And I've turned into a trivia question, right? This is my 5th South Dakota school I've coached at. I'm hoping it's my last, right? Hopefully this is it. But yeah, this has been a pretty surreal moment of doing it. But I've said very directly, it's one thing to get the job, and now we got to do the job. Now we got to do the job, and that's what we're in the middle of right now.
Well, you mentioned you've been at a few different schools, coaching it, and you've seen success at all of those schools, and you've coached with a lot of coaches as you
Yeah.
were an assistant that were
Yeah.
very good coaches, and obviously at Dakota Wesleyan, go back from Murphy to Hemingway,
Yeah.
Gordy Fosness, Martin, and now at Northern, that list is even
Hey.
longer. If and
you don't even.
Don Meyer, you talk about
Yeah.
Olson, you talk about Walks.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that?
Weeds. Like you don't even need to say that because I'm dodging heavy boulders there. Like, whoa, hey, like you said at D-Dub, we had Mount Rushmore coaches there, with Doug and Gordy, like those guys. And then you get up here, and it's been awesome. And I was actually after I got the job, you know, uh, our assistant athletic director Ashley does an unbelievable job, and she did the write up for my bio, but she put in there, I think, like I'm the 6th or 7th head coach at Northern since 1945. I like, okay, Wilbs, and it was funny because we were having a fundraising event, and this is good stuff. I mean, but a guy comes up to me, passionate dude. He was awesome, and he was like, "Hey, we're fired up. You're here, and you don't have to worry about anything. We'll for sure give you at least 2 years." And I was like, "Well, that's a heck of a lot longer than I thought I'd have getting started." And so, there, you're talking about following in the footsteps of the great ones, and I'm not those guys. I try to do this job the best I can, and I'll try to do that the same way at Dakota Wesleyan. I took a lot of pride in the history and tradition of DWU. Getting over there, there were a lot of people I was connected to before I got there that were Tigers, and it was awesome getting there and having that run and getting up here at Northern. You play amateur baseball and amateur basketball and college basketball and college baseball in South Dakota, a lot of Wolves, right? And so there are a lot of guys I've been connected to. And obviously in the most recent history here, you're talking about maybe the most successful run Northern State has had, right? The run Paul Sather had, and then Coach Phillips had with these guys winning 5 conference championships. A lot of those guys I recruited to DWU. So there's personal connection there. We always scrimmage Northern. So I was always rooting for him. Paul Sather, Sundance Wicks, the list could go on with guys I've been connected to here that I've rooted for. And so it's been fun to get up here. But yeah, you start listing off those coaching names, and it's one of those like, ooh, this seat's a warm seat, man.
Absolutely. Mick?
Matt, maybe walk me through. I mean, you said, obviously you mentioned it earlier that this was an unconventional path to this job.
Yeah.
What were maybe some of the determining factors where you said to yourself, as cool as it is where I am right now,
Yeah.
and as much as these challenges that I'd be facing, that you're very aware of the community there and how it's not, it's fantastic, but it's also challenging.
Yeah.
But what kind of clicked and you said, no, I gotta see if I can do this?
Well, the first part of it was, I was home. We were in the off season here with Phoenix this last winter, and the job opens up, and you hate how jobs open up. You feel for people, and obviously do. I knew Coach Phillips here, and things just go as they go. I'll be honest with you, despite maybe what people see of me and have seen of me, I'm pretty humble. I was like, can I get the job? I asked a few people, close to Northern, and guys that had played here and coaches here, do I have enough to get this job? I mean, this is a high profile job in Division II. You ask people around the country. I know what our record was the last couple of years, but you're talking about, is this a top 5-10 job in the country? Most people would probably say so at the Division II level. So you're talking about the types of coach you could recruit here, the types of people that'd be interested in this job. I was like, am I one of those people? And that was the first question. So I didn't get called on it. I applied. I put my name in. I went in there and I wasn't sure in the process of how it went. There were times where I'm like, well, I'm not going to be considered for this. And they were going to, do this and this and go on. But it happened where I had said all along trying to get it, I just want a chance to get up on campus and get in front of the people at Northern face to face, and tell them my story and tell them what motivates me here. And I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here. So once that was the case of like, hey, do I want to go after this? I went after it. And Coach Tibbetts, Nate and I had a lot of talks, and it was, things went really well for me down at Phoenix, just on a personal level. The role that I was given, I jumped in with both feet. I was like, hey, I'm here as a support staff. I've got these tasks to do. I was obviously in charge of, some scouting stuff, but I didn't have any responsibilities offensively or defensively. I was in charge of our practice squad, and coaching them. And then I had player responsibilities, but I was the good time coach. And my team, my former guys that I coached probably couldn't believe I didn't say one negative thing to anybody. I was the high five guy. I'm like, you're doing great. And so I wasn't prepared for how quickly and how much that group was going to feel like a family to me, and our staff, the players. That was really hard to give up. And I joke, the only change they've made to that staff from last year was me. So they're in the finals. I'm gone, here you go. And so, but it came down to, who do I think I am and who am I? Am I an assistant coach or am I a head coach? And as much as I would say, had I not done the Phoenix thing, knowing what it was going to be, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. I think getting this job and turning it down would have probably felt the same. And we'll see. You could talk to me in the middle of the winter, and we're 5-20, and there's a foot of snow up here, and I'm like, I could be in Phoenix doing workouts for an hour and then going golfing. We'll see. But I'm back in the jackpot here as far as the hot box of being the head coach and doing that role. But I'm really excited, and that's what it came down to: is who are you? Who do you want to be? Because frankly, Coach Tibbetts is doing a great job. I was tied to him. You're tied to your head coach when you're an assistant at the pro level, and things were going well, and I probably could have stuck with him as long as he's riding around. And, it's a leap of faith when you're taking jobs and deciding on all that. And here I am. And I would say the only way I'd regret this right now is if I could have done both. And I didn't, but I'm excited to be here and really fortunate for what I got to do in Phoenix for 1 year.
So, let's go on to Phoenix. We'll come back and talk about maybe some of your team and
yeah,
maybe some of that stuff a little later. But let's talk about Phoenix. You mentioned, we've had conversations, so I understand when you say you were in charge of players.
Yeah,
you were in charge of a pretty big name.
Okay. Before we go on, I was not in charge of this person. Like there is nobody in charge of this person. I was more. I don't know what it looks like if a 10-year-old was holding the leash for a 100-pound pit bull. Like, that's probably more what it would look like following her around. I mean, she is amazing, Diana Taurasi, and that was one of my player assignments was obviously DT, and just going down there and having that assignment and being able to be around her and have access to her the way I did from the coaching side and from working with a player, that was enough. There was a ton more to that experience down in Phoenix that was awesome, but just being around her day to day, the relationship, and seeing her work and learning from her. And I'll say that she liked to be coached. She still liked to be coached. She's 42 years old. She knows a lot. We saw eye to eye on basketball stuff, so it was awesome being around her. She likes the motion and movement stuff, and she's big into the footwork and skill development, and she loved to work. And so, I mean, you want to talk about, she got a Netflix documentary, right? Like, she got her own documentary. And the stories that she had from Russia and from the WNBA and from Gino Auriemma, you walk in the gym with her and she knows everybody everywhere. She doesn't just know the other players. And you're walking into New York, she knows the people she knows the court attendants, and they know her. And in Phoenix, like, she's it down there. So that experience was unbelievable. And I joke, like, I thought I was really competitive. I thought I disliked officials. I found there's levels to this, right? There's levels to that. And she's on another one, but she's one that I still stay in contact with and will for as long as she'll let me. But she's awesome. She was awesome.
I think, especially at the professional basketball level, it gets a bad rap in the NBA, WNBA. Oh, they're not working hard.
Oh,
But maybe talk about how hard they
man,
work, how competitive. You touched on that.
man.
Just the skill level.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
people don't understand how big,
yeah,
strong, physical,
yeah,
skilled those
yeah.
people are out there.
Yeah, without diving into it too much, I know that the basketball game's one of those games where we're constantly going men versus women on this, and I thought about, we don't have women's baseball and men's baseball, and we don't have football, and right, we don't there, but we also don't do a lot of time, spend a lot of time comparing the track and field numbers to each other, right? There's a difference in there, but I walk in the gym and here come the WNBA players, and I've never seen them in person. And you're like, whoa, like, holy cow. Like when Kalia Copper walks in the gym, you're like, that is a basketball player, shoulders and length and athleticism. And when you walk in the gym and you see like the college players were going, and then you go, oh yeah, you can, how big and strong and physical. And then the other side is the commitment level to it. Now, we had the white mamba, right? DT, and she took that name, and that's for the work ethic, right? Like, so the best story I could explain about her work ethic, the last game she played when we lost in Minnesota, we had a practice, we had an off day, and then we had a practice the day before. And she's 42 years old. She's been playing for 20 years, but she's not playing 20 years like the NBA guys are playing 20 years. She's playing 20 years in the WNBA, and then for 12 of those, she's going overseas a week after her WNBA season is over and playing a full season. And then after that season's over, coming back and jumping in, and she's got a week at training camp. So you're talking 12 of those years are 365 days of basketball. And what people don't know about overseas is it's not like over here. You don't have days off. They were two-a-days. They were running them. I mean, they were kicking their tail. Now, she got paid. That's why she kept doing it, right? She was going over there. That's where the money was, and she got treated really well and for it. But her career for what she did. So last, a typical practice for a WNBA or a professional is you have people coming out early to get work in, right? Like they may just be shooting. They may go through an individual workout, depending on if they're a vet or a rookie. And you have all these coaches and people willing to work with you and rebound and put you through this stuff. And then you have practice. And we had about an hour and 15-minute practice. And then you have people that will stay after, players, to get work after that. DT, last day, out there doing a 30-minute workout before practice started, shooting workout. Every day, that was her. Wilbs, let's shoot. Wilbs, let's shoot. 30 minutes. What do you want to do? You take care of your footwork. I'll put you through some motions and actions. 30 minutes. We practice for an hour and 15 minutes. She's locked in. We're doing stuff with zone. We're putting in stuff. She's the loudest voice of we're going here, 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 here from a player standpoint. After that practice, she did a full scale physical contact, one-on-one workout 20 minutes after that. 42 years old, played 30 minutes the next day. That was her last competitive practice. And I got to be a part of that. So I'm going, what's this person like when she's 30? And the truth is, that's exactly how she was. And so I've been fortunate enough, like I get to say to my guys, like, hey, the best compliment I'll ever give you is you're an everyday guy. And I told her 2 weeks in to meeting her, I was like, DT, I can't wait to be a part of this, but I get it. I get it. Why you're the logo of this league makes sense now after watching you in the summer working for 2 weeks. And Tibbs would say the same thing. He'd be like, Wilbs, look at her. Like, this isn't it. Like most guys just come in here and get their shots up. She's going through 4-on-4. She's playing 1-on-1 and she's going. And so to see that at that level and that competitive, that's greatness at the highest level, man. Like that's greatness at the highest level. And that's what she was. And that's my best story for what I saw for like, hey, this is what this takes and what it's all about. And she was like that every day. She was like that every day.
You got anything
Matt,
for him?
Yeah, Matt, what are there some things from that experience that are going to benefit you as you go forward?
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm already long-winded, Mick. You guys know that. Like, I'm sorry.
No.
It was awesome. At DWU, I had to be the smartest guy in the room most days, right? I'm the one making every decision, and what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And it was awesome going down there. And I made a conscious effort when I got the job to be like, hey, I'm going to have my eyes and ears open, and I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm not coming down here to try to tell people what I know. It's a pro game. It's the WNBA. I'd never coached women, never coached at the pro level. And so I told Tibbetts right away, I'm like, listen, if I'm screwing up, bark at me right now. Like, tell me right now. And we had a running tally, because hey man, for 20 years I was the number one voice in the gym. I ran a basketball business called Tibbs Basketball with Nate, but he jumped into the pro ranks right away. So he was out of there. We were partners, but I was running our day to day. So I had the floor every day in that business for 8 years. Then I'm at D-Dub for 11, and I had the floor. So I got to go, and now I'm number 6, out there. And we had a joke of how many times I was told to shut the F up, frankly. Like, hey, Will, like, we're starting here, be quiet. I went down there and I was like, I'm gobbling up as much as I can. So without getting into a ton of details about the X's and O's, and there's a ton there. It was awesome getting down there because offensively from the pro game, our offense didn't look a lot like that. Like our motion, like we don't move in space like that, and didn't. So I'm excited to bring a lot of that stuff back and see what that looks like, bringing the pro style with what we were doing in the college level, because I always felt really good about our offense and what we were trying to do. But then it just was really re-energizing to go down there and be around the front office, the health and performance staff, our coaching staff, and our players, where everything is supposed to be completely transactional. This is about winning. This is about salaries and contracts and all this stuff. And it was the opposite. It was, hey, we got to treat people the right way. We're building relationships. We're coming to work with this kind of energy. And Tibbetts is the man. Like, he is a culture builder. And anybody that knows him and saw him play at USD or at Roosevelt knows he was the wrangler. Like, when transfers would come down to USD, he was the one bringing them together. He was the point guard and he was the general and he was the man at that. And that's how he's been at the pro level. And you see why he's worked, because when I was with him at Tibbs, he could work with third and fourth grade boys and girls. And when I've seen him with the pros, he can work with WNBA and NBA players and relate and meet them where they're at and get the best out of them. So just being under Nate and watching him move around was re-energizing to go, you know what? We can do this in a positive manner. This doesn't have to be, we're barking at people and we don't have to scream and yell at them to get them to play hard. We can motivate through the positive all the time. And that's something that's really, I've tried to be. I know I go through ups and downs in my time at D-Dub and all of that, but I think we can do it that way. And it was really re-energizing to see that kind of mission and that kind of, that focus to work at that level, and seeing it work there too now with them and how they're doing it. So that was a big thing. Just watching Nate move around and watch how he leads his program and how much that matches up with what I would want to do, to be able to see that in action from an assistant coaching point of view.
That it's funny you bring that up, because that was one of the next question, and then I'll turn it back to Weeds there, who's talk about being the smartest in the room. I'm looking at Weeds there right now, and I'm thinking, that's a big room. I don't know, man. Can you say the same? But no, it's been a while. We remember Nate as the head coach for the Skyforce for a couple years. And then since then, as much as you can see where he's been and see who's hired him, that he knows what he's doing and he's gifted in this, but we haven't seen him as a head coach in a while. And now we're definitely getting that and seeing, how this season went and seeing that. So that was going to be my question, is like, what makes him distinctive? Why is he good at what he does?
Yeah, I just I think that he has the belief of his players. I think he's an excellent motivator. I think he's an excellent connector, and a lot of people are good at these things, and I think he's elite at it. And so in the Phoenix facility, our practice facility, you have the entire front office, which is GM, assistant GMs, analytics staff, and then you have the health and performance staff, which is athletic trainers and physical therapists the sports psychologists and the strength and conditioning coaches. In the kitchen, you have these unbelievable chefs in the kitchen, and you have these people working from security to all this stuff. He's great with all of them. Everybody, from the top down has felt his, hey, this is about us, and we're going to connect us together, and everybody's a part of it, and everybody matters. And when you do that, and you don't walk around with this I'm the man type attitude, and you really believe in people, I think he just gets the best out of them because of that. And then on the other side of it, he is an elite basketball coach. Like he knows his stuff. He understands basketball on the offensive and defensive levels. And he's a junkie. Like the amount of times I was sitting in his office, he came up to me one time. He's like, Wilbs, let's talk about some offensive sets. And I'm like, awesome, let's do it. So I came in there, and he had an edit running where it was just his own edit. And with the film stuff, he's a wizard with film. Like he watches and chops up film and keeps plays. So when he goes in and he's like, hey, this was a good play for us, bad play for us. This was good action by one player, good action by another, or the other team. Hey, that's a great set. So he's just, he's coding it out like a lot of coaches do, but he's really good at it. And he was watching one of his edits, and I was watching it over his shoulder, and I'm watching all these actions. And he's like, ooh, this is good action. Ooh, this is good action. And I just was watching. I'm like, yeah, man, you don't need any help from me, bro. Yeah, this is all you. You got this. I'll just be here and watch some of this stuff. So he's ahead of the game. He knows what's going on. The other thing he's really good at, and if you look at Phoenix's numbers this way, he's amazing on the board at timeouts, like coming out of timeouts. And I think Phoenix has been number one in the WNBA in their after timeout points per possession, which is a big deal. And that's drawing stuff up and your team going out and executing it and getting a bucket out of it. I think they were number one the last 2 years. If I misspoke on that, I misspoke, and I might be thinking of him too highly, but he's amazing on the board that way. So he meets people where they're at, plus he knows what he's talking about. When you have that combination and you can communicate with people, you're going to be pretty successful. And I think, I'll tell you what, like, I love where he's at, and I think he loves coaching in the WNBA, but I think, you're talking about this guy could coach at any level, man. He could meet people at any level, what NBA, wherever, foreign. He could do anything that way from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, wow. How special is it? It's pretty cool that obviously Nate's coaching for Phoenix in the finals, and then we got another South Dakota, Becky Hammond, coaching the other team. It's crazy to think that's
talk
the
about
two best coaches in the league.
Yeah, talk about another. Talk about Becky. And I don't know her personally like Nate. We've crossed paths and just said hi and bye. I know those two get along pretty well. I know, I'm guessing neither of them wants to lose to each other at all because of the competitive level of both of those people and, how successful they've been. But it's a remarkable story, right now, just from the stance of South Dakota coaches, like you start crossing over and you got Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, and you got, Coach Heupel, Josh from up here in Aberdeen coaching at Tennessee, and they're squaring off this week too. I think that's a number 8 versus number 12 in the country. I mean, it's crazy to think that we have that going on here in this state.
Good stuff. Let's shift gears if we can for a minute. Let's maybe talk about, you mentioned before we got on here, you're renting a house in Aberdeen. And who would have thought when we were coaching together, you're renting a house in Aberdeen. I have an apartment that I rent in Vermillion because I spend a lot of time down there, and our families aren't there. Maybe speak on how is that working, to be away from your family, like we're in Phoenix. Lindsay's still coaching, all this stuff going on. That's a busy life.
I know, on a personal level, and to be very transparent, I've obviously had very, like the experience I got to have down in Phoenix and going down there and coaching. My family didn't move down there, so I've got a wife and 5 kids, and they were all back home. And then now I'm up in Aberdeen, and such is life in the professional level. But as dads, unless you're a complete, you wonder, am I doing the right thing, right? Like, my kids are at home, dad's not at home. As much as I think my wife would have been like, "Hey, I'm good. You can move out. We're good here. We're good." Like, there's coaches that will joke like, "Hey, my marriage is way better when I'm not in the same zip code. Like, this thing works a lot better." Things I found out, which good positive things. I found out I really enjoyed being married to my wife, and I missed her, like being away. We just hit a landmark of 20 years, and you know how that could go. And anybody that knows me, being married to me, that's an impressive feat by her. And so that is always in the back of my mind. But getting back to South Dakota, and I was 1,500 miles away last year, and I shaved a 0 off of that number being in Aberdeen now. So instead of a 2-hour plane ride, it's a 2-hour drive, and I can run home at any time. Frankly, I can. I got little ones there, and I was home 3 weeks this last week, and was able to be home for my son's senior night at football. I saw my 2 oldest last spring win a state golf championship as a team, and following them around. And I was missing all of that, down in Phoenix. And I was concerned about going back to Phoenix. As much as I was excited for the job, I was concerned about going back year 2 and knowing I was going to be gone for a 7-month stretch, even though I get to be home for a long time. But being back here, even though this is more of a year-round gig, I'm able to get back home and can get there. So that management and doing it. But yeah, man, I'm in my office. I'm looking out. Yeah, I can see my house from my office here. Like, I live on campus. It's old school with with Vince Vaughn and Luke Wilson, the movie, minus all the booze, and so, like, I'm living right on campus. So my guys are walking past my house. It's almost like, "Have a good day today, Wolves. Go get them." As I'm sitting there, I got a flag flying on State Street. And so, and then I obviously have my house back in Mitchell. So I've made a lot of runs up and down 281, and I've joked. I've met pretty much every highway patrolman that would ever drive on that road. We've had some good talks, and I'm hoping, I don't know how long the warning tickets are going to last, because it's going to be like, "Matt, you got to slow it down." But yeah, it's been really good being back in South Dakota from the family standpoint with this. Did I cut out? Did I cut out? Oh, okay.
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
So yeah, if Mick's got something, otherwise I'll keep rolling.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay.
What else you got? Keep those flies.
I know. I got flies. And well, let's go back to Mick said, in this room, this big room back here, and it's not empty. I got 2 of my grandkids, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, running around back there.
It's great.
And so they're smarter than I am.
Okay.
And the dog is laying by my feet, and she's smarter than I am. So I am not the smartest person in the room. So, but anyway, Wilbs, in the coaching profession, you touched on, what Coach Tibbetts meant to you, obviously, as a coach, and how you learn from him. But I think sometimes, we as coaches, we're ultra competitive, and people see us competing with each other, or see us going different directions.
Yeah.
Maybe speak on, the importance of what, maybe Coach Tibbetts or somebody else, Coach Nagy, have meant to you off the court as well.
Well, I just have been really lucky. The guys that I played for and worked for, I've just been really fortunate. Obviously Coach Tibbetts most recently, he's one of a very small group of people that I would have went to be an assistant coach for, right? Like that, that's my guy. And that was awesome. Coach Nagy, when I was at SDSU for a couple of years, with him, you talk about the amount of stuff you take away from a guy like that, who is just in all areas, firing in the right directions with people, and Coach Murphy at USF, right? There's, here you brought up Coach Meyer, and as you walk into the Barnett Center, there's, we've got some really good stuff on the walls, telling our story. And there's one of Coach Meyer there, and there's a great quote there of, hey, every great program has to have an overriding purpose that's bigger than winning and losing in the program. And he lived that, right? And the guys that played with him or played for him and worked with him knew that. And that's important to me too. And my big thing is, as I've coached, I've really tried to pour into our roster and be whatever that I'm needed in that. And I've been lucky to coach a lot of kids who come from great families that have mom and dad around and are right there. And I just have always known, like, I'm at my best when I've been a head coach at this level. I was a selfish athlete, very numbers motivated. I might be hard on myself with that, but that's what I was. And the being a head coach has really been good for my soul, because you have to, if you're going to do it at a really good level, you gotta really put yourself second, right? You gotta put yourself at the bottom of that, and you gotta serve and be selfless where you need to be. I mean, I know what my role is. I got to run this stuff and make a lot of decisions. But I love being here for these guys, and it's been really fun. I've been lucky to have some really good ones. But these coaches that have come before, I think you see the guys that have had longevity in this game. It hasn't just been about winning or losing. And I'll be honest, and I know this is a great church. I know it's a great church, but on my corner in Mitchell, when I turn to go home, there's a great church, and it's Cornerstone Baptist Church is right there. And if it was just about winning or losing, I would have torpedoed my car through that sign multiple times, because we lost the national championship to Cornerstone University. And every time I see that sign, all I think about is Kyle Stangiga and us shooting 23% in a national championship game to Cornerstone University. And I know that I should not hold the Cornerstone Baptist Church to that, but every time I see it, and that has been my turn for the last 13 years going home. So it's got to be bigger than winning or losing, because there's not enough wins. And you can see these guys, even when you do win it, they get right back to work, man. And you're doing this. So, what I get out of it is I have been lucky to be around some great people. And you see that, if you do this long enough, you see that transpiring into them getting married and having kids and the relationships that continue with it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've gone quite a while, Mick.
Yeah.
Anything else before we wrap up?
Let me think here for just a second.
Yeah.
We're live, so if I'm going to think, I should be thinking pretty quickly here. How about a little bit about Coach Meyer? And did you know I went up there one time and spent a whole day with him, and I didn't know him other than his reputation and all that. And I saw during that day, just up close, the connection he had, the community had with him.
Oh man!
And is that something that you knew a lot about when you took the job?
I did know this, and I didn't know Coach Meyer on the personal level that a lot of people around here did. And I know Nate Tibbetts had a really good connection with him, and so anybody that coaches is gonna use directly or indirectly stuff that Coach Meyer said. He just had it figured out from that standpoint. But up here, he was really connected with the community. And when I came up here and was interviewing for the job, and now being up here, that's part of being at Northern. Like, this is like we have jobs like this in the state where we're so small that you can't just be like, DWU is the same way. Like, hey, you're the DWU coach. Guess what goes along with that? Being the Northern coach, here's what goes along with that. You're going to have people stopping in of all generations that want to talk about Northern, and they want to talk about their experiences. I've met more people who my mom and dad went to school with up here, whether that be in my office or in Menards, where I'm getting stopped. And I'm going to tell you, that's not a hassle to me at all. That's not a burden. That's why, that's part of it. When you take a job like this, you're taking a job to jump into the community aspect of what this is. And anybody, people in Aberdeen know it. We understand here, and the people here, well, way more than I do, understand how central Northern State is to Aberdeen, South Dakota. And taking the job, you better understand that. And if that's a burden to you, then you can't be the coach here and feel like you're going to do a good job. And so I don't have a problem with people being like, why did you run this? Why'd you run that? Why did you play this guy? Like I know if things don't go well, I'm not going to be the coach here for very long. I understand that that's part of this job. But I love the fact that people care here. I love that it's a community job. That's what gives me, passion and all that stuff. And so I'm excited to do it. I hope we win a lot, and I hope we get to win a lot with a lot of people around us caring about it. Good and stuff. Coach Meyer knew that. Coach Meyer understood that here too, man.
Yeah. I've told this story before, but Higher Power Sports really started because of Coach Meyer. I was with you at DW, and he was speaking in Parkston, and we'd known each other for a couple of years, not weren't great friends or anything like that, but we had formed a relationship after his accident, and we're sitting in the Catholic church, and he looks at me, and I'd talked to Coach Wilber about, I think there's something else I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And in that church pew at the Catholic church in Parkston, he looked right in my eyes. He goes, "Tim, you're doing great things, but there's something else that you need to be doing."
Yeah.
And so that just was another kick, to get out and start doing that. So
yeah, that's great.
Coach Meyer.
I know we're pretty lucky. Northern was pretty lucky to have him, right? Like, and a lot of these players, and the one thing that, whether I'm here now and singing the song and, telling the story as much as I can about Northern basketball and hearing all the stories from people, everybody that knows anything knows how deep the blood runs up here for this program, and how proud the alumni base is and how widespread it is. I mean, you show up on the road, and in Sioux Falls, you see them all, right? You see these guys, and they care. And that's been really fun to dive into, because I sure as heck care about what I'm doing. And like I said, it's been easy to put this wolf on, and I've never worn maroon in my life. And I've got a lot of it now. I didn't have it, when I was interviewing up here, I've got 100 ties. I got ties all over the place. And I'm like, I don't have a stitch of maroon in one tie. There's a lot of royal blue. So I had to go buy a couple of ties with maroon in it. And now you wouldn't see any blue anywhere except back home in Mitchell when I throw it on to go watch my wife play and her teams play. So it's been pretty fun transitioning up here into it. But I wear it okay. It feels pretty good wearing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mick, anything else before we wrap up?
I think I'm good for now. I got a ton of more questions. I mean, this really seems like I get just a unique opportunity, but also a unique challenge with the way that it has, like, I go back to the non-traditional route to this job, and getting the opportunity to go back and to use all the stuff, the new stuff you've learned, just the benefit of your experience, and how much that has probably evolved over the years, and how you deal with kids, and how you deal with college basketball, and all those things. I think there's a ton to watch here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of question marks. It's easier to lose games in this league than it is to win them. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you just look at last year's records. The top teams were 16-6, and there were 3 of them that tied at 16-6, or 15-6, or it was 16-6, and then the next 4 were 15-7. So you had 1 through 7. Those, they're just beating up on each other here, man. And so we've been fortunate at Northern. This was just in the most recent history. I mean, 3 years ago, we're 19-3 in this league, and a couple of free throws probably away from a national title if things break the right way. And so it's a proud, tradition up here, and rich one. But at this time in my life, all the stuff you go through, the ups and downs, and that's for a whole nother podcast. We could document all those pretty well. That way, I just the timing of life, right? The timing of life, and where I'm at today with what I've got for energy and how my life is moving. This is probably the right time for me to be at Northern, and if it works, it works, and if it does, it was meant to be that way. And I feel pretty strongly about my faith and being at the right time, at the right spot at the right time, and how things break. And it did for a lot of things in my life, and DW is one of them. And here I'm at Northern when it would have been unthinkable in a lot of times. So I'm excited to be here and thankful to be here, and pretty humble and grateful that I've got this opportunity.
Maybe this winter we can have you back on and you can give us an update on the team and everything and how it's going, and why you've lost a game or why you've won a game, and we can really pick on you that way.
Hopefully there's wins, man. Hopefully I'm not sitting here like, yeah, everybody was wrong about this one. Like,
no, I think you've said it a couple times. Winning games is hard.
Yeah.
At the college level, winning games is so people don't understand. Yeah. No matter what the record is of the team you're going against, if they're better than you, you have a chance to win. Yeah. If their record isn't as good as they have a chance to win. It's just really hard to win a game.
It is. And I know we didn't talk a lot about it, but I've been really encouraged. Like I said, I don't have any expectations from a win-loss record. I rarely did. I'll be honest with you. I know we were always trying to get to the national tournament. We were fortunate a lot of times to have some great teams at DWU that were there. But with this group, I'm always looking for, hey, do we have a good group to work with? What's our talent level look like? Are we practicing like a championship level team? Is there a vision and an identity that's being created? And I just have to give our guys that we've had, because we kept about half of them from last year. And we brought in another half. So you're talking about 8 new faces into the program that a lot of them didn't know where Aberdeen, South Dakota was before we contacted them. Right. And they're fired up to be here. But they have really bought into, here's the message. But now the one key is they only have me for 1 year. It might be the best model. They only have to hear my crap for 1 year. And it's like, hey, here it comes, here it comes. And some of these guys that had to hear it for 4 or 5 years from me are like, geez, I'm hearing this stuff all over again. And it's just this. But these guys have been great and receptive to the messaging. And I'm hopeful for them. I'm cautiously optimistic, knowing how tough it is in front of us. But we've been on a day-to-day basis, like every coach. But we've had some pretty good days with this group, and I'm excited to keep working with them. It's a really good group of guys. I just, from your stance, Weeds, and I know what your mission is in higher power sports. Quick story with our group. I went down to our weight room, our locker room after these guys were done with weights in the middle of the afternoon. And you're talking about flies, right? You're talking about flies right there popping on. But I went down to knock on the door just in the weight room to pop my head in to see if anybody was there, because we had a bunch of gear that had came in to hand out, and it was quiet. And I'm like, oh, they all probably took off already. And I poked my head in there. All 16 of them are in there. And there's guys on their phones sitting there. So I'm like, well, they're just hanging out. And then I look at one of our guys. He's reading out of a book. So they were doing a team Bible study. All of them were in there doing a team Bible study, talking through some things. They invited me in. I said, you guys are good. I'll be down in my office when you need me. But I just have some guys that I think have their lives moving in the right direction. 3 of them are married, for heaven's sakes. Like, I got 3 married dudes on my squad. Like, the maturity level is flowing a lot higher than I thought it would be. And sometimes over my head. So I got a good group, guys.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Coach, I appreciate every time we get to talk. I appreciate your friendship, and I'm rooting for you up at Northern.
Appreciate it.
And we really appreciate your time. And Mick, I'll give you the last word. Mick, always good to see you. And next week, either next week or the week after, haven't confirmed, we'll have Coach Peterson, the head coach at the University of South Dakota, on and talk about some good things. He's been through a lot as well over the last couple of years, off the court and with some injuries in his program and all that. So look forward to hearing Coach Peterson talk to us. either next week or the week after. Mick, you have a great week.
Take care. It's great seeing you, Matt.
Thanks, guys. Great to be
Thanks,
with you.
Matt.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, Coach.
a lot.